What kind of society is Chinese society? What kind of culture is Chinese culture? What is the psychology of Chinese people? To answer these questions, most people look up habitually. However, based on the framework of the integration of Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism, we can only see an explicit China. In fact, under the glamour on the surface, China also has a hidden society, which is the homeless society. Homeless people are a surplus working class who have no working status or only do informal work. Its components include soldiers, hooligans, thieves, beggars, and so on. The vagrants were powerful in Chinese society, and they sometimes combined with a section of the surplus intellectual class against the aristocracy. After Qin Shi Huang, most of the revolutions in more than 20 dynasties took place from this. Tang Zhen, a thinker in the late Ming dynasty, said, "Since the Qin dynasty, all emperors and kings are thieves." In Tang Zhen's words, thief is actually a good way to say it. In colloquial terms, it means that everyone who has been an emperor since the Qin dynasty is a hooligan. Indeed, when we look back at history, we will find that this phenomenon abounds. Before Liu Bang became successful, he was a hooligan who has no business in production, good wine, and sex. He once coveted the first emperor's honor guard. After he became successful, his hooliganism became even more full. Liu Bang once pissed in a Confucian hat and was complacent. He pushed his wife and daughter out of the car while fleeing for his life. Xiang Yu wanted to put his father in the frying pan, but he said, "My father is your father. Don't forget to give it to me if you kill him." A bowl of broth to drink. In the end, he proclaimed himself emperor, and he proudly asked his father, "You always called me a rascal since childhood, how am I better than others now?" As a result, Xiang Yu, an aristocrat who pays attention to etiquette, justice, integrity, and shame, finally lost to Liu Bang, a gangster who does not pay attention to martial arts. Zhu Yuanzhang, who was born as a beggar, was not much better. He was young and poor, but once he won the country, he became a political hooligan. What meritorious service to the founding of the country, old friends from the same hometown, they were killed unambiguously. Compared with Zhao Kuangaian's "a cup of wine releases military power," it is simply the lowest end method of the underworld. In addition, he was nepotism for Bao Zhongshan, and ended up in a situation where his own son beat his own grandson. This was true for the founding emperor, and even more so for the generals and ministers under the emperor. Liu Bang's general Pen Yu, who was as famous as Han Xian, was once a water bandit, and Zhu Yuanzhang's Chang Yuchun, who was known as Chang 100,000, was also a bandit. Lin Yutang once said, "Cixi is dead, and his name is just a memory, but what he left us is the joy of his heart and the joy of his thoughts, which are immortal." Cixi lived a life of ups and downs and suffered all kinds of hardships. He was forced to the desperate situation of fate time and time again. But in the face of the wind and rain, he was not depressed, thinking of the uncertain future, he did not feel anxious. He can always live out the highest state in the lowest life situation. If at this time, you are feeling anxious and hesitant about your life, you might as well read these 6 poems by Cixi. After you read it 2 or 3 times, I believe that all internal friction and anxiety can be healed and calmed down. One about gathering and dispersing. Knowing what life is everywhere, it should be like Fi Hung stepping on slush. Fingers and claws are occasionally left on the mud, which is what Hung Fi counted. The old monk has died and turned into a new pagoda, and the broken walls can't see the old problems. Do you still remember the bumpy days, the long roads and people are tired and the donkeys neigh? He's Mayan nostalgia. In the winter of Jiayu's 6th year, Cixi was urged by the imperial court to take office in Fengxiang Mansion to sign the sentence. In desperation, he had no choice but to bid farewell to his younger brother Sujet. The 2 brothers had been together day and night for more than 20 years. When they broke up for the first time, Sujet was willing to leave after 200 miles in one breath. Cixi was very disappointed. He thought that if he passed the Jinji examination, he would be able to stay with his family often, but in the end he still went his own way. When passing Mayanke, there was a heavy snowfall outside. Early the next morning, he saw many paw prints of swans on the snow, but he didn't see a swan. At this moment, he suddenly understood, it was only accidental that the bird stayed on the snow field, and he didn't know where to fly the next moment. Life is like a bird, no one can predict where his future will be, and separation and reunion are commonplace. After looking away, Sushi's inner depression disappeared in an instant. As the old saying goes, everything in the world has its own destiny, which is beyond what people want to do. Some people, when it's time to leave, you can't keep them. Some things, when you're about to lose them, you can't get them back with all your efforts. Facing this impermanent world, many people are depressed and miserable. But gathering and parting due to fate is a common thing, and time will never treat anyone preferentially. As it is said in the Peony Pavilion, the wind is uncertain and people are impermanent. Since you can't see the next stop in your life, then cherish the people and things you have now. Since you can't change your destiny, it's better to let go of your obsession and be at peace with the situation. 2. About the dilemma. The black clouds turned over the ink and did not cover the mountains, and the white rain jumped into the boat randomly. The gust of wind comes and blows away, and the water below Wangkyu Tower is like the sky. Drunken book at Wangkyu Tower on June 27. In the second year of Xining, Wang Engshi set off a reform movement. Up and down the court, disputes between the new party and the old party continued, officials from all walks of life fought against each other, and everyone was in danger. For the livelihood of the people, Sushi was outspoken, pointed out the current maladies, and tried to reduce the burden on the people. However, his advice has angered the new party. In the past 2 years, he was impeached and framed several times. Sushi had no choice but to ask himself out of Beijing to serve as the general judge in Hangzhou. When he first arrived in Hangzhou, he sighed all day long and was very worried about his official career. The dark and cruel party struggle was like a mountain, overwhelming him. One afternoon, he went up to the Wangkyu Tower to enjoy the beautiful scenery. Suddenly, black clouds overwhelmed the city and a heavy rain came. Just when he was feeling disappointed, a gust of wind blew past, and the clouds and rain disappeared instantly. The sky was as blue as washed, and everything was completely new. Seeing this beautiful scenery, Sushi was in a good mood, and the haze in his heart had long since dissipated. In fact, many encounters in life are not just like this sudden storm. But no matter how urgent and severe the wind and rain come, there will always be a moment in the past. Since then, Sushi devoted himself to government affairs, repaired water conservancy, and built dams, which won the love of Hangzhou people. Life is like this, it is always accompanied by sorrow, tribulation, and pain, giving people the illusion of nearly unbearable every now and then. But these so-called predicaments will always fade with the passage of time, and finally disappear into the dust and smoke. Just like disqualification in the world said, so far in the so-called human world, the only thing I am willing to regard as the truth is only one sentence: everything will pass. In the trough, too much worry is just consuming mental energy, so that you can't resist the storm of life. Instead of complaining about yourself alone, gradually sinking in adversity, it is better to act immediately, accumulate strength, and learn to hold an umbrella for yourself. 3. About the past. Spring is not old, the wind is fine and the willows are slanting. Try to watch it on the stage of detachment, half a moat of spring water and a city of flowers. Misty rain dark thousand. After a cold meal, I wake up from alcohol but complain. Hugh thinks about the old country to the old man, and tries new tea with new fire. Poetry and wine take advantage of the time. Looking at the south of the Yangtze River transcendence. In the autumn of the 7th year of Xining, Sushi was transferred from Hangzhou to be the prefect of Mizhu. Compared with Hangzhou, which has beautiful scenery and rich humanities, Mizhu has monotonous scenery and thieves are rampant. His heart was very depressed, he didn't think about food and drink all day long, and was depressed. Every night, he thought of the scene of reciting poems and painting with literati friends on the Su Causeway of West Lake, and his mood became even more depressed. Until one time his family persuaded him, no matter how beautiful Hangzhou is, it's a thing of the past, why can't we be happier? Only then did he realize that brooding over the past had hindered his experience of the new life. In the spring of the 8th year of Xining, Sushi boarded the rebuilt detached platform. He saw that the spring flowers all over the city were blooming brightly and movingly, and thousands of families were looming in the haze of mist and rain. He was deeply attracted by the beautiful scenery in front of him, and his heart gradually opened up and became clearer. Later, he swept away the gloom of the past and began to integrate into the rough Mizhu life. He hunted with his colleague Hirika, drank with his friends in the wine shop, and lived a comfortable and unrestrained life. Life is a one-way ticket to move forward and keep walking. Those passing scenery, the road traveled, can't be repeated in the end. In the face of the beauty of the past, too much nostalgia will only become a kind of fetter. As Master Hong Ai said, everything in the past is like dying yesterday, and everything in the future is like being born today. The dead cannot be chased, but the coming can still be waited for. Treat life as a book, and only by turning this page can a new chapter be opened. 4. About mentality. Don't listen to the sound of Chuanlin beating leaves, why not scream and walk slowly? Bamboo stick straw sandals lightly beat horses, who is afraid? A cloud of smoke and rain ran Ping Shen. It is expected that the spring breeze blows and wakes up, it is slightly cold, but the hills are slanted to welcome them. Looking back at the place that has always been bleak, when I go back, there is neither wind nor rain nor sunshine. Steady the storm, don't listen to the sound of Chuanlin beating the leaves. In the third year of Yuan Fen, Sushi was demoted to Huangzhou because of the Wu Tai poetry case, and he was completely reduced to a low-level official. The meager salary cannot support his normal life at all. He likes to eat mutton, so he can only rush to noon to pick up the spine of mutton that others don't eat. Without porridge and rice to satisfy his hunger, he opened up wasteland to grow food in the countryside. Friends from afar came to visit him, seeing his situation, felt bitter. He cheerfully invited them to taste his freshly roasted lamb spine. After dinner, Sushi heard that the sand lake outside Huangzhou City was fertile, so he invited his friends to Xiangtian. Unexpectedly, there was a sudden heavy rain on the way, and the companions hid from the rain in embarrassment. Only Sushi didn't care. Holding a bamboo stick and wearing straw sandals, he walked in the rain calmly. Think of the words of Romain Rolland, there is only one kind of heroism in this world, and that is to still love life after seeing the truth of life. In the precarious adversity, Sushi galloped freely and did his own way. In the bumpy official career, he was still full of pride and proud of his life. If you take a closer look, there are people who are downcast in life, but they are reprimanded by their superiors. There are also people who live in a rented shabby house, eat instant noodles, and still smile. As Sun Yang Gatso said, life is a field of practice, and the joys and sorrows are all in the state of mind. No matter how the world changes, don't be troubled by foreign objects, and keep an indifferent heart. Walking to the place where the water is poor and watching the clouds rise is the secret to living a good life. 5. About regret. At the foot of the mountain, the short dipping stream of Lanya. The sandy road between pine trees is clean and free of mud. Xiao Xiao Mu Yuziki cries. Who knows that there is no less in life? The flowing water in front of the door can still go west. Hu will sing the yellow chicken with white hair. Huangzai San Tour Kishui Qingquan Temple. In the 5th year of Yuan Fen, this was the 3rd year that Sushi was demoted to Huangzhou. He is 46 years old, and in the eyes of Song people, he is already an old man with grey temples. His health is not good, especially the pain in his left arm is unbearable. Hearing this, a famous doctor friend rushed to Huangzhou and invited him to Kishui County to treat arm pain. After he recovered from his illness, Sushi looked at his aging body and felt that his life had passed by in a hurry, and he felt very regretful. So his friend took him and went to Qingquan Temple outside the city to play together. Looking at the strange stream flowing from east to west in the temple, he suddenly realized, who knows that life is endless. The flowing water in front of the door can still go west. The previous depression was swept away. After returning to Huangzhou, he worked actively, and a year later, he received a transfer order and returned to the court. In life, many people have had such a moment of awakening like Sushi. I regret that I didn't study hard, and I regret that I entered the wrong industry. But when it came to taking action, they immediately shook their heads in frustration, saying, it's too late and it's too late. But a precept of the Harvard University Library said, the time when it is generally felt that it is too late is the time when it is the earliest. In life, it is never too late to work hard. Instead of torturing yourself back and forth between awakening and regret, you might as well take action immediately. It's never too late to start. 6. About the pattern. Viewed horizontally as ridges and sideways as peaks, the distance and height are different. I don't know the true face of Lushan Mountain, just because I am in this mountain. Tixi Linbi. In the 7th year of Yuan Fen, Sushi finally ended his life in Huangzhou and was transferred to Ruzhu. When passing through Zhejiang, he visited Lushan Mountain. He suddenly discovered that Lushan Mountain is viewed as a ridge horizontally and as a peak when viewed from the side. Different directions and different angles have another kind of beautiful scenery. So, with a feeling in my heart, I wrote this poem. This is the case many times in life. What you get is not what you see is not what you feel, and what you feel is not the truth. Far away from the capital, which is the center of power, Cixi's literary and military strategy seems to have lost its scope. But in Hangzhou, a corner of the south of the Yangtze River, he promulgated government orders, built dikes and canals, and personally benefited the people. The Wutai poetry case, the 100-day prison, and being demoted to Huangzhou, all kinds of injustices seem to have brought Cixi endless pain. At the same time, it also completely released his freedom and boldness, and helped him write poems that have been passed down through the ages. Qian Zongshu once said, if you look at the world from another angle, you will gain different things, and the world will be displayed in front of you in another way. The location is different, and the scenery you see is also completely different. In life, everyone will always encounter some incomprehensible things and be treated unfairly. Resentment and complaints will only drag you into the vortex of negative emotions, getting deeper and deeper. But when you zoom in on the pattern and observe from another position, maybe the troubles will disappear. The setbacks in life will not knock you down, but help you to hone yourself and take on greater responsibilities. Others' accusations and criticisms of you may not be intentional, but they have high hopes for you and help you polish yourself. You will eventually understand that those so-called troubles are just a shadow brought by a blind eye. You only need to change the location a little, and the layout is bigger, and you will see green water, green mountains, sunshine, and flowers in front of you. Writer Zhu Yong said that almost every Chinese will meet Su Dongpo. At an inadvertent moment in your life, you may resonate with his life situation. This may be a sudden blow, a low period that makes you feel depressed. It may also be a moment of reunion and parting after a long absence, which makes people feel lost and sad. But no matter what the situation is, Cixi will always tell you not to be discouraged. Don't worry, just take it easy. Having a good attitude is enough to resist all the suffering and troubles in the world. Cixi's poems are the projection of life, and also hide his life guide. When you think too much and keep internal friction, you might as well read these 6 poems by Cixi to help you relieve anxiety and confusion.